a lot of times we become the person that people expect us to be. Sometimes you might not see yourself as a leader, but someone else does, and then they set that expectation or they give you that encouragement. We become like how our peers view us. Julian Hollar.
What's up, man?
What's up, big dog?
How we doing?
Thanks so much for being on the Spear podcast.
Tip of the spear.
The tip of the spear. Yeah, the tip of the spear. I'm so grateful to have you on, man. One of my favorite people.
I appreciate that. Excited to be here.
Sorry for the long trek. Appreciate you driving though to Hollywood.
You know what? I love being in my truck, so.
You got a cool truck.
Good to go.
You have a very, very cool truck. We've known each other now for what, 3 years, would you say?
Yeah. 3 years sounds right. 2021-ish.
And that's kind of where the relationship started. And for the audience, Julian is one of the best guys I know. He is an entrepreneur. He runs 2 Chick-fil-As.
Yeah.
He's a great family man. And where we connected was on a trip to Tulum, Mexico.
Yeah.
Which we both have agreed we're never going to go back.
No.
We like Mexico, but
we won't discuss the contents of that trip. But
we probably won't go back to Tulum.
Yeah.
Pretty place, just very expensive.
Yeah.
When you're paying $18 for a Corona, you're in the wrong place in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't my favorite place I've ever been.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, what it came down to. Let me tangent for a minute. There's a certain level of, I've worked hard to get to X place in my life. And Tulum is just never the thing that you dreamed of being that. You're like, you know what? I've worked so hard in my life. Like, let's go stay at this hotel that, pumps their septic tank every morning at 7 a.m. And
that's a real thing that happened.
Very
on this trip.
little infrastructure, and you're worried about swimming in the pool at said, that's it.
But the best part of that trip is A, I think you and I had a great time, but B, most importantly, I feel like that's where we really connected.
Yeah, 100%.
And I recall us at the hotel just having drinks together, and one of the things I brought up
was
drinking
lots of water.
Yeah, we're drinking lots of water. Was like, talk to me about your leadership style. And you were like, Sean, I want to be like the most caring CEO. And I was like, man, I've asked like a lot of leaders that question, and I've never heard anyone answer it in that way. And I was like, ooh, let's dive in. This is good. Like, let's talk about that. And so over the years, like being friends with you and seeing the way you run these different retail restaurants, Chick-fil-A specifically, like that is totally who you are. That's why I was like, one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you is like let's dive into that. Like, I think it's harder to run a Chick-fil-A than it is Harvard. Is that true?
Yeah.
To get into Harvard?
Statistically, there's about 80,000 expression of interest every year to become a Chick-fil-A franchise owner. And they select somewhere around 120 people every year. And so if you look at like Harvard acceptance rate and the number of applicants, you actually have a better chance of like getting into, it's like Harvard, Stanford, and Yale all in the same year than being selected to be a Chick-fil-A franchise owner. That is no way, shape, or form any credentials. Like, well, we might get into this, but I flunked out of business school. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So no, it is challenging to get into the Chick-fil-A world, but somehow
you managed it. You did it.
Yeah.
And now you own 2, which like getting one is so hard, but you have 2.
Yeah.
Both on the west side.
Both on the west side.
Marina, Playa Vista.
Yep.
The other one's in Venice.
Yep. Yeah, Playa Vista area, and then right on the border of like Marina del Rey and Venice. Brennan's, Turtle Racing.
Yeah.
If you're familiar.
Very cool. So I want to get into being a leader that cares, but taking a step back.
Yeah.
Did you always plan on going into the restaurant space?
Yeah, so I'll give like a little history on myself. It's funny, I've had this conversation several times, and I was like reflecting on this with my parents recently. And I was probably naive to the fact that there was anything else outside of the world that I was supposed to do except for being a business owner. My dad was a business owner. He kind of like bootstrapped this very like blue collar type business. He owned a vending company, like literally filling up Cokes, Snickers, Fritos, Cheetos, like filling up vending machines. And he started that. It started off as a coffee distribution company, and he would go and service like, go into your office buildings, and he'd set up coffee, and he'd bring in new supplies and stuff like that. But literally started out of our garage. I wasn't even born yet when he started that. And so set it up in the garage. But our entire family had this like kind of blue collar entrepreneurial type family. For whatever reason, we're all in the vending business. But my grandfather started his own business. My dad's younger brother took over the family business, and then his youngest brother also did the same thing that my dad did in the vending business. So my whole life was just like, oh yeah, when you grow up, you own your own business. That's just what you're supposed to do. And from the hospitality side, my mom's French. She was born and raised French national, and then she moved over here for college and did a kind of study abroad program her senior year of high school. Met my dad. It's a beautiful love story. But the kind of that idea around French hospitality really came from her. We hosted people at our house all the time. That's where I kind of get my love for hosting and whatnot. It comes from her. And she taught me at a young age to like kind of cook and prepare food for myself. Like I was making eggs in the microwave when I was like very young because she wouldn't let me use the stove. So I was like, okay, I'm going to show you how to make scrambled eggs in the microwave. So I kind of got a lot of that stuff from her and from the hospitality side. And then the entrepreneurial side, I went through college not really knowing what I wanted to do. Like I liked the entertainment, like video production stuff, like kind of got into that, had some friends. This is when like Jackass was around. We like made some funny videos.
Yeah.
I was into like skating a little bit too. So like kind of had that vibe, but really that didn't lead into much. But so I got into this school that I shouldn't have gotten into, Samford University down in Birmingham, Alabama. And somehow got into the business school. And again, like I said just a second ago, I failed out of business school, which is hilarious. And I'll tell another story about that. But so I get into Samford, I flunk out of business school. I have like no idea what I want to do. I signed up to be a journalism, mass communications major with a focus in broadcast journalism. Because I was like good behind a camera. I knew how to edit. I could do a few things. Okay. It's kind of like a skilled tactician when it came to that stuff. But from the creative side, it lacked some skills there. But I had a mentor in college, this guy that led this Bible study with a couple other guys. And we'd hang out at this house on like Monday or Tuesday nights. And then on Fridays, they would take us out to lunch. And we'd hang out with these guys, and they would just kind of pour into us. And Jordan Ciervo, my mentor and the guy who I eventually went to go work for, he came back one summer and was like, over like spring break. He was back at Samford. He had already graduated, moved to San Diego. He's like, hey, I think you should check out this thing we're trying to set up at a Chick-fil-A that I work at. We're doing this like summer internship program. We need people to help grow the brand. Because
is this a friend or is this the mentor?
Both. I mean, yeah. I mean, he was a senior when I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
And we were just with a couple of guys. Yeah. And he kind of threw out this idea like, hey, would anybody be interested in moving to San Diego? And so he was talking to me, another one of my buddies, and he was like, I think you guys should check in on this and like see if somebody would be interested in. And so
what was the opportunity in San Diego?
We were going to go market Chick-fil-A, a local Chick-fil-A down at Sports Arena in like Point Loma in San Diego, just opened. It was like the second restaurant built in San Diego. And like it was very low brand awareness in California. Like people called it Chick-fil-A and had all these like wild names. This is 2007. And so I went and worked at this Chick-fil-A. I interviewed with the owner and got to meet him, and I got to actually live with the owner that summer, which was an amazing opportunity. But I went and did this thing for 8 weeks in San Diego, which was awesome because this was like, hey, you want to go to San Diego for the summer and do this internship? And I thought the entire time that I was just going to do this for free. And I was like, yeah, dude, that sounds great. Go to San Diego. And I tell the story, like within 3 days, of starting with Chick-fil-A, I was like, this is what I want to do. I love this brand. I love the idea of owning my own business. I worked at a restaurant when I was in high school, like almost quit. Started off as a dishwasher, that's just anybody that washes dishes their like primary job. It was brutal, but it was this like nice sit-down restaurant, nice-ish sit-down restaurant in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I grew up. And so I kind of fell in love with the restaurant industry, ended up working there for 2.5 years, did every job except for bartend, and just loved it. The atmosphere is insane in the restaurant industry. And there's some wild people that work in restaurants. I mean, there was like this career woman that'd been working at this restaurant for like 20 years and, kind of like a burnout, kind of funky lifestyle, but like lived on tips. And that was just how she, and I swear I went back like 15 years later and she was still there. You're like, wow, okay. But here I am, still in the restaurant space. I mean, I started when I turned 16, my dad was like, okay, you have to go get a job. Like school is clearly not going to be something you're great at. So like, learn how to work. And we always worked with my dad growing up. So he would have me, push the broom around at the warehouse and, stack pallets and clean and help out employees, all that kind of stuff. Maybe we can dive into some of that stuff too. But
so going back, quick question. So you moved to San Diego, you started working at this Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah.
And within a few days, you were like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
Like what spoke to you? Like what about the brand? What about that experience within like such a short period of time? You're like, I'm all in.
All in. Yeah. Like I said, so I had kind of this idea in my head that I was supposed to own my own business. And so I got to live with the franchise owner that summer. He wasn't married at the time. He was engaged, but still not married. And so, I got to live in like a little room that he had at his apartment. And so I got to like pick this guy's brain a lot for maybe his demise. I don't think he knew how much I was going to want to talk to him.
Yeah, you were probably peppering him with so many questions. He probably loved it, but he's like, wow, this guy's very curious.
Matt Hughes, you're the GOAT. I freaking love that guy. He really brought me into the fold. But I just kind of knew very early on that, like, from an entrepreneur perspective, this sounded really fun. It was very exciting in the restaurant. But I started learning about Chick-fil-A, kind of their values as a business. The Cathy family are, strong, devout leaders. Truett, the founder of the company, started the business on these like incredible principles around integrity and character and like taking good care of people. And, this firmly rooted in hospitality. I mean, the guy grew up in Georgia, right? So it's like Southern hospitality is a real thing. And so you just get to experience these little parts of the brand. And I just quickly fell in love. And I was like, yeah, this is great. And not to mention the franchise model at the time and Matt Hughes went through a similar process that I did. This is the owner that I worked for that summer. Worked at a restaurant for a couple of years, graduated college, had an opportunity to open a restaurant in San Diego, paid $5,000. Chick-fil-A built the building. They put the equipment in it. They do the design work. They do all this stuff. And you literally just hand them a check for $5,000. And then they hand you keys to a restaurant. You have to, hire the employees. You've got to develop the systems and processes. But for the most part, it's a relatively turnkey system. But you don't have any equity in the business, which kind of stinks once you get older. But Matt was like 24 when he started this franchise. Like, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's young.
That's really young. And I got selected when I was 27 to run my first restaurant. I ended up turning 28 before we got it open. But, at 27 years old, I was handed the keys to this multi-million-dollar business.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And where else does an opportunity like that exist?
Very few places.
Right.
And to have a Chick-fil-A has how many employees? Per location?
Between both of my locations, I have about 150 employees. So one location I've got about 55, another one I've got about 95 or so.
To my, like, going back to being kind of 27, 28, you have like 50, 75 people reporting to you. Yeah. That might be, 10, 20 years your elder.
Yeah, there were a few people older, but it's still like it's a young crowd of people the quick service industry is traditionally meant to be a starter job, right? So young people for sure. Yeah. But an insane opportunity. And so I think I saw this at a young age, like, hey, there's something to be done here. And then knowing that the market in California was so young that there was just something there where you're like, hey, there's like a bit of a like gold rush and you've got to be willing to stick your neck out. You've got to be willing to work really hard. But at the, end of the rainbow, there's this really great pot of gold that is a really well-oiled, well-respected brand that can provide something for me that never in my wildest dreams. I mean, sitting here now at 38 years old, never in my wildest dreams did I even think that once I started my journey with Chick-fil-A, I couldn't even begin to dream of where I am now.
Wow.
Yeah, for sure. And so life-changing experience when you look back and reflect on it. I mean, it's in June, it'll be 18 years.
Yeah, I can sense the gratitude.
Yeah. And it's been a journey. Yeah. But there's so many people along the way, like Matt Hughes, Jordan Ciervo, these people that just kind of like nudged me. And I can even go further back, like mentors I had in high school that saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And, for whatever reason it was maybe some little nuanced thing that they saw that, it's going to be a leader of people. I remember this guy, Rick Coleman, he led a Bible study. Thursday mornings, you have to wake up early. We'd go to this Bible study. He was in the Air Force. And I almost joined the military because of Rick. But he would just be like, yeah, you're a leader, man. I'm like, what are you talking about? What is a leader? What does a leader even do? I had no concept at 16 years old what a leader is. But he was like, no, you're a leader. And you start like believing in those things that people are telling you. And then, I talked to a guy like Matt Hughes. He's like, hey, you could do this. Talk to a guy like Jordan Ciervo, calls me up. It's like, hey, I know you're graduating soon. You thought about this? You want to take this seriously and go to the next level, become a franchise owner? I'm like, yeah, I do. That sounds awesome. Let's do that. So I got bought into that culture of leadership and entrepreneurship very young.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah, that's so cool you had those types of people in your life. I don't know who I heard this from, but I think it rings true in that a lot of times we become the person that people expect us to be. Like sometimes you might not see yourself as a leader, but someone else does. And then they set that expectation or they give you that encouragement of like, Julian, you're a leader. Mm-hmm. And then you start leaning into that because like a lot of times we become like how our peers view us.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting philosophy or concept in and itself. And here you are, this like kid who is like not thinking of yourself through that lens, but these like older people or people you admired or looked up to, like they saw something in you and then they planted that seed. And then here you are today leading, multiple different things. I know you're part of a nonprofit we're going to get into, these two Chick-fil-A's. So it's like, that kind of was like where the seed started and now it's like blossomed and developed.
Yeah. And I mean, to go back to this like idea around care, you mentioned it earlier, like for me, it's super important. Even if you just look at it from a legacy perspective, for me to carry on the legacy of those people that invested into me and to impart that legacy into others moving forward. And,
wow.
and very much of my joy in work and what I do comes from being able to spend time with leaders and to coach and develop and mentor for whatever advice I can offer them. And, it's a lot of just life experience. Like I said, I failed out of business school. It's not my wife's fault. I'm actually not good at education, but I also subsequently met my wife right around the same time that I flunked out of business school.
Shout out to Abby, who's
shout out to Abby.
such an amazing person inside and out.
Yeah. Absolute smoke show too.
Yeah,
not to mention. Outpunted my coverage, as they would say in the South. So, where was I going before I started talking about my hot wife? I love being able to pour into other people. And I don't claim to know a lot, but I've become a student of leadership. And I think that's a lot of the Chick-fil-A culture, which is amazing. Like we just got back from this huge conference in San Diego and they fly in authors, leaders, business owners from all over the world to come and share leadership principles with us so that we can grow as individuals. And so it's just baked into the culture of Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And that has tremendously impacted my life. And so I do think that it is important for me, the legacy that I want to live, to be able to pass on some of that wisdom and knowledge and help other people. This is kind of like my catchphrase, if you will. But I believe that one of my purposes in life is to help other people meet their inherent potential. Whatever that is, and however much I can help them along their journey, great. And I think there's plenty of people that are going to launch and go far beyond any capacity or ability that I will have to be able to help grow them. But for whatever little part that I get to have in their life and in their leadership journey, I hope that I can help them meet their inherent potential somewhere down the road. And whether that's a employee that just gets started and I just get to tap in and ask a small little question about, hey, like, what are you passionate about? Like, what gets you excited? What gets you up every morning? Or, it's someone that I do a one-on-one every other week, and we're spending an hour just getting into life, getting into business, getting into leadership, all that kind of stuff. So it's an important part of what I do. And it really is like, it's the most fun thing that I get to do in my work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I did. That was like, that was kind of like the Trump went way. The weave. Yeah. There's a lot of weaving.
That was great.
A lot of weaving there.
One of the things you mentioned that I'd love to dive into is like the principles that you've learned through the leadership lens at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the things that you try to embody as a leader, right? And what are the things that like Chick-fil-A, in your opinion, embodies as a brand?
Yeah.
Because I think those things are kind of probably very similar in that, like, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. So Chick-fil-A was founded on, from Truett Cathy and the Cathy family, founded in like very strong biblical principles. And one of the big biblical principles is the story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet as they're coming into the upper room. And that is a depiction of servant leadership. And from very early on, that has been ingrained in the Chick-fil-A culture and for my own leadership. So this idea around servant leadership. And
so that story is discussed internally.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a statue actually at their in the atrium of the support center back in Atlanta where their headquarters is. And it's massive. It is a life-size scale of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And every owner, when they ink the deal that they're going to become a franchise owner, they go through this training course called Fundamentals. And you're given a small statue of Jesus washing, the same statue that's it's this like beautiful bronze statue. That's you're given that like a smaller version of that when you go through Fundamentals. So servant leadership is like just ingrained into the culture of Chick-fil-A and what they do. And so, yeah, I mean, servant leadership, character, integrity, for myself, like there's this idea around care, and this is ingrained within Chick-fil-A, but I think it really comes from like my parents, definitely my dad, but like caring for other people. And we are in the service industry. We're in the service of other people. It is what we do. I mean, you're in the service industry in a lot of ways. You're there to serve your clients and help them succeed and get the space that they need to be able to do their job really, really well. And so we're in this idea of service. Well, service means that you have to be doing something for somebody else. And you can either do that begrudgingly because it's what pays you, or you can do that with a posture of joy. And the reality is and I heard you talking to someone else in a podcast about this, and it reminded me of this phrase that our founder said, Truett said. And he said, when you help enough people get what they want, eventually you're going to get what you want. And it's not meant as a like tit for tat. It's not like okay, well, like now I get mine. It is truly this posture that if you are willing to serve enough people, eventually your heart will be shaped into this person that just recognizes that how much service has value. And you'll find that that's really what you've been wanting to do this whole time, that you've wanted to be in the service of other people. So it's not necessarily, like I said, like this tit for tat thing, but it's like you have this like posture and heart change where if you help enough people get what they want, eventually you're going to get what you want. And sure, there's maybe some benefits to helping people get what they want, but it really, like the genesis of it came down to, wanting to help people. And so taking good care of people is really important to me. Like one of our team member values is to help our team become the best version of themselves at life and at work. And I got this.
Oh, that's a team core value.
Yeah. We have this thing called the North Star Business Compass. It's
wait, I love this. This is so great.
Yeah, and don't ask me to recite all of them by heart.
Wait, the North Star Business Compass, and it's all about like helping people become the best versions of themselves at work and in their professional life.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know of a ton of companies that have something like that.
We specifically values. When we wrote it, so you probably familiar with Simon Sinek. He wrote this book called Infinite Game. Such a good book, and I kind of got this like challenge to think about our vision and how we do business and what it is that we want to be known for. And he talks about the infinite game. Infinite game has no players. Kind of only people competing to create this kind of like better future. Anyway, I'm going to botch it and screw it up. But this really comes from this idea of helping our team members become the best version of themselves at life and at work. It comes from this idea of like having a noble cause in how you want to approach life. And I've said that when I die, I don't want to be known for the chicken sandwiches that I served, but the people that I impacted. And so if you really like think through that lens, I care about the work stuff because the byproduct of the work stuff means that, we sell chicken sandwiches, and in turn I generate an income that allows me to be able to do things with my family and my lifestyle. But we put in that statement life first on purpose, because if someone is dysfunctional, dysregulated, they're not doing well, they're not going to perform in their workplace. If they're having a hard time outside of work, they're not going to do well in the workplace. And so this idea around being able to care for others beyond just having an employer-employee relationship is really important to me. Like I said, it comes from my dad. I mean, I witnessed my dad do countless things for people that worked for him. Just acts of kindness, like found out they were going on vacation, slip them $100 bill on the way out the door. And they were making maybe $7-8 an hour. And, he would just like, hey, yeah, have fun on vacation. Here's $100. Go take your wife out to a nice meal. Right. Just those little like bits of care. And so I go back to like what I would want to be known for is to help our team really like have something valuable when they leave. So that was one of our core values as a business, is to help our team members become the best version of themselves at life. And that's life first, and then work.
Yeah. I think when I said it, I said work and then life, because I imagined a company that was like putting work first and then your life. But I'm like, oh, wow, I actually prefer the way you guys have it, where you're putting your life first and then work. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. It was intentional.
Yeah, for sure. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to like talk to different business leaders and entrepreneurs about like how they lead. And I haven't heard anyone say what you just said from that lens of like service leadership, like making an impact, like trying to help people, whether it's their personal life or their professional life or their personal life, which it's the opposite. It's personal life than professional life.
Yeah. That's mean, we all as humans need to be able to feel like we can be the best version of ourselves at some point. And like in general, I know when I'm living out my best life, everything else around me is working better.
Yeah, for sure.
My relationships are good.
Yeah. My
business is good. There's so much that happens in this. And I don't want to like get caught up in this idea. There's like fantasy that you're supposed to be good all the time.
I don't think that's possible.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not. It's
100%
It's a fool's errand. And like, yeah, life is, I said this on the podcast before, but life, I heard this from a mentor and a friend who actually unfortunately passed away. He got struck by lightning, crazy enough. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, great guy, Will Friend, was on a sailboat and got struck by lightning. He was the CEO of a company called BizNow, which I worked at BizNow before I jumped into brokerage. And we were on a morning run, and the audience has heard me talk about this, but we're on a morning run, and he's like, Sean, life, there's going to be all these, like, I look at life through the lens of, like, you have all these balls, and You're juggling a ball that's your work. You're juggling a ball that's your family. You're juggling a ball that's like your fitness. There's all these different types of things that we're juggling as men or as women. And he's like, some of those balls, they're made of different material, right? Like your family is a ball that's probably made of glass. If you let that go and it goes south, like if that ball falls, it's going to shatter. But the work ball is rubber. And if that goes south, you can always pivot and like go do something else. And that ball is likely to bounce. And so he was like, make sure you're focused on the right balls in life. And his recommendation was like, don't put all your emphasis on the rubber ball, which was work in his opinion, which I agree with. Because I think when you're younger, you're like so ambitious and driven and so focused and trying to make something of yourself. And you just like obsess upon this thing that you get a little bit out of whack from a priority standpoint.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 38 years old. I've got 3 kids, 2 businesses. For all intents and purposes, people would look at my life on the outside and be like, dude, this guy's got it together. He's got a house. His kids go to private school. Yeah, whatever you want to say. Like whatever the accolades are. But man, that is a constant pursuit. And I love that analogy. The analogy I use are plates, spinning plates.
Oh, so spinning plates. Well, it makes sense for you. Use spinning plates. You're in the food industry.
Yeah, but I was having coffee with a friend of mine this morning, and I would hate to even call it like a mentor-mentee relationship, but a guy that I love spending time with, and but we were talking about this exact same thing. That there's this constant battle between what it is that you should be pursuing in life and how you pursue that. And I almost look at it like it's like this a triangle. It's a square, but a triangle. And you can only fit a certain amount of that triangle into the square, but you can never fill the entire square. It's impossible to fill the square. And it's really hard. And I don't want anybody to get this idea that like I have it all together. I'm floundering all the time, trying to figure out how to be a good dad, how to be a good husband, how to be a good business owner, good friend, even taking care of myself, whatever those things are. So, at the end of the day, it is the pursuit that helps refine us. And like I was given the keys to a 27 million, or at 27, I was given the keys to a multi-million-dollar business. I wasn't ready then. I'm still not ready at 38, but I'm on the journey and continuing to like prepare myself and just get better at it every day and show myself a little bit of grace. And our team, right, to go back to the team member purpose, to help our team members become the best version of themselves at life and at work. The majority of our team is not going to be the best version of themselves, but it's the pursuit. It's the desire. It's how we set up our systems. It's how we run our business. It's how we live our lives, right? You think about it from an internal perspective. It's the pursuit of being able to do those things that will ultimately lead to a better refinement. And you're still like, I don't imagine that at 75 and be like, I got it. We're good.
Yeah.
Whether it's business or family, like, no, we're going to have to be working all the time on that. And that's okay.
Something I think about, Julian, is like life is a roller coaster.
100%.
Like there's ups and there's downs. And to like your point earlier, you're talking about all these things that like from the outside, like things might look really good, which it seems like they do, for you. But like life, it ebbs and it flows. And like you're going to have high moments and you're going to have low moments. And I think sometimes like you're like, man, like you don't see a path out of this like low moment or this low season. And what I found helps is you reflect on like, oh no, like this is just life. Life is about ups and downs. It's about seasons. And so like whenever I'm at a low point in life, it's just like, okay, I acknowledge that this is winter, but like spring is on the way, And I think having that mindset through these types of things, I found to like really help whenever you're dealing with it. Like you talk about like, life being really good and like pursuing the best version of yourself, which I think is admirable. And like, I think that's amazing that you do that. I definitely try to do that myself, but also realizing that like, we're just every day as a human, like you're just trying to grow and get better and better. And some days it's going to be better than others. And that's all part of life.
Yeah. I mean, that's life. That's business. That's relationships. It's, life's not binary.
Yeah. That's so true.
right? And I use this analogy, and I think we're constantly trying to find a summit to climb. Whether it's like the dopamine summit, the like feel good summit, or it's like career summits.
The dopamine summit is so real right now,
dude. Yeah,
it is. I mean, we could talk about that for the next like few hours.
And I'm unqualified except for just through the experience of just constantly trying to seek it.
Yeah, same.
But
same.
there's
and realizing I'm a little addicted to it.
Oh yeah, I need what do they? They've like dopamine rehab now.
I was just thinking that. Like
I probably should
like a retreat.
Probably should hit
like,
that.
Yeah, we just like leave all of our electronics and get out in the wilderness. Which I think, as we become, and I don't mean to cut you off on your thought, but I think as we lean more into a digital world or a world of like AI and technology,
yeah,
I think like there's massive upside in using technology and AI and all these different things. But I also think there's so much upside in getting away from all of that.
Yeah.
And so like I see, and this is something completely different, a different topic all in itself, but I see major opportunity in either leveraging AI through your business or tech through your business, or getting completely away from it and leaning into like anti-tech, where you get out in the wilderness and you don't have these phones, you don't have anything, and like you're doing more stuff that like is getting away from all that.
Yeah.
That's where I think we're going.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a huge desire personally, and I think I've seen it too in other people that I work with, other business owners, franchise owners, that we're constantly looking for this. We fantasize about an escape.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're living this life, we're in Los Angeles, yada, yada. We've got concerts and great restaurants. But like, how many times you're like, dude, Yellowstone looks dope. Let's go ride horses for hours and get chased by wolves and like,
I mean, dude, even
wrangle cattle.
Yeah, even the men's retreat that we're going on pretty soon. I'm like so stoked on that, because it's like,
and we'll unplug and that'll be beautiful.
We'll be skiing, snowboarding, like hanging out. Like it's gonna be great. Like I'm very much looking forward to that. But I think that's like so important to lean into those types of things and to kind of get away from the noise.
Yeah, you need it.
You definitely
need it, right? Like even that pursuit of like being your best self, like. And I think people would like look at me. They're like, "Yeah, hey, way to go, man! You run a multi-million-dollar business. Like, good for you that you can go skiing in Sun Valley." But whatever those retreats are for you, you've got to have them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a dip in the ocean.
Definitely.
Even just like a walk in your neighborhood.
I don't necessarily think it's so much about like.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna go another step. This goes into something that I'm super passionate about too, and we have this suck into the digital world. Mm-hmm. We're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Right. We're creating a digital experience,
which is amazing, by the way.
Amazing.
There's such incredible pros to this.
100%.
But it's all about like creating parameters and boundaries and balance. But go on.
But some of the best experiences that you and I have had together are just sitting around a table.
It's true.
Enjoying a meal together.
Yeah.
Or, and it wasn't Tulum or Tuscany. I mean, Tuscany was sick.
Yeah, that was cool.
But
that was so cool. Yeah.
The experiences are with people. This is like life-giving. Just sitting here, this is a life-giving moment. So I think we do have to fight that like dopamine rush that our phone can give us, like the quick, let me get that Instagram hit. But to be able to jump in and just sit down and have these moments, that's why Abby and I, we love doing those dinners, man.
Yeah. By the way, those dinners are incredible. And to the audience, like Julian and his wife, Abby, they curate just these amazing experiences where they invite people over to their house and Julian cooks a elaborate meal.
I like
an
making meat.
Incredible, meal, and you just sit around a table and eat and talk.
Yeah,
and it's amazing.
No subject in particular, right? Just sit, be friends.
One of the things I'd love to talk about is like, A, why do you do this?
Yeah,
and B, like, how do you do it? Right? If someone's trying to recreate this, is like wanting to just invite people over to their house or create community. Like, I think you are like elite, like the best of the best at doing this.
Wow, that's generous. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't say it lightly either.
No, I know.
I've
I know
been
you're
to
serious.
a good amount of dinners, and Yeah, you guys just do it in a way where it's very intentional. It's authentic and it's intentional, and it's not surface level. Maybe I'm like kind of saying your answers right now for you, but that's the experience I have.
Yeah.
And I know Sarah has that too, where like
Shout
we're
out
gonna
to
go
another
deep.
smoke show.
What?
I
Yeah,
said
shout out to another smoke show. Absolutely. Yeah, but I think like you leave one of those dinners or one of those experiences and you're like, oh, that was unique.
Yeah.
That wasn't like other dinners I've been to.
Yeah.
So Julian Hollar's best practices for creating community and making an amazing dinner.
So, it comes down to like Abby and I have a very strong desire for community. That's like hands down. Our relationship is the best when we are living in community with other people. Mm-hmm. When we isolate ourselves, it's just us and our kids. Like we're not doing great. So I truly believe that our lives are meant to be done in community. We're tribal people.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
I totally agree. And also too, the kids are a part of it.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite parts is going to your house and I get to greet those 3 beautiful girls and they're all so fun and we're playing. Like they're a part of these dinners, you know, like they're part of the experience and truly add to it.
This generous you say add?
I think they add.
We intentionally do dinners like later at nights. We're like, yeah, let's get the kids to bed so then we can have dinner with our friends. But yeah,
they're a part of that first like hour to 2 hours, you know, and then they go to bed.
And I think, so community, but to tap on the like kid side, we were sitting there. You came over the other night and we just had like fun, like barbecue, hangout sort of deal. And we were talking to Margot, my oldest daughter. And I like took a second and I was like, you know what's so cool? Is Margot, that you get to see from your parents what true and good community looks like. What really genuine friendship looks like. Because she's getting ready to enter into this age of just wild relationship building with boys and girls from her school and all this stuff.
I can't imagine what that's like.
To
have 3 younger girls.
I try to live naive to it, Sean. I just try to live naive to it. But to be able to like curate that and them to be able to see, even if it's from afar, from a distance, right? Even if they're like playing in the backyard and they see mom and dad hanging out with their friends. Like, I think that's so cool. I mean, I learned some of it from my mom. I think that's where I get some of the hospitality. We would host like 4 families every Christmas Eve. And she would do this elaborate meal. And this is where it comes from. But it doesn't have to be elaborate.
No, it doesn't.
No. I mean, we did that Valentine's Day dinner. I cooked some steaks. They were delicious, but we ordered fries from DoorDash.
Yeah.
That's not elaborate, but it added to the experience. Definitely. So I think for these things, like that, we so desire community. So I think you've got to be able to want to create community with people to do these things. And really, like, we just sit down. We just sit down and then the meal's there. But we like to have fun with it, right? I think we did one in preparation for this trip that we were going to Italy. We were like, hey, let's try, a couple of different Italian wines. And then, you just do it. And it doesn't have to be anything scary. It's so funny. We have conversations with people all the time. They're like, yeah, I can't invite people over to my house. Why? Well, I don't know what to make. I don't know what food to prepare. Or I'm like just worried what they would think about my house, or what would we talk about? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to get to know somebody? Invite them over to your house. Order Chick-fil-A and set it out at the table, right?
Yeah.
I think just sitting down at a table and creating an opportunity just to be real with people. I think the other thing that people are afraid of is asking like a question that maybe goes a level deeper.
I was actually going to touch on that I think it's the food, it's inviting people, it's creating the atmosphere, but then it's the intentionality of your vulnerability, maybe Abby's vulnerability, to propose a question.
Yeah.
And people have the ability to jump in and talk or not say much. But I find everyone is always saying stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing when you create an opportunity for vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this deep-hearted question, like, tell me about your deepest, darkest secrets. No, it's not that, right? But it's like, hey, what's stirring you right now?
Yeah.
Like, what's the thing that's giving you joy, or what's an area of your life you're really feeling challenged? I don't know. I'm not great at just off the fly, but it is. And sometimes the conversation just happens naturally.
Yeah.
And sometimes it, requires a little bit of push. And I think that you as a host, and when you invite people over to your home, you need to have a few bullets in the holster for questions that you want to ask.
Okay, so what are some questions? I know you kind of said like, maybe what are you joyful right now, which is a great one.
Yeah.
Like what are some other questions? I'm trying to think of, so what I've done on a few, you've been to my dinners that I host.
Yeah.
They're not at my house, but we hosted at like a cool restaurant.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit different in that I'm really bringing together like business leaders. Like some of them are clients, might be people that aren't clients, but they're friends. And so I'm bringing, so everyone can kind of like get to know each other. And what we did, I don't know if you recall, but everyone wrote a question.
Yeah.
And I really didn't give a ton of like, give a ton of information. I'm just like, here's a pen, here's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Write any question you want. And I did that on purpose just because like your question could be like, hey, my question is, what's my favorite color? Blue. Or it could be like, who are you voting for and why between Trump and Biden? It's like,
hot.
My buddy Sean got that question
take.
And I was like,
Sean Kelly.
Wow. Yeah, Sean Kelly.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, it's my dinner. I can decide whether or not we pass on that question if you want to, Sean. And Sean was like, no, I'm happy answering it.
Sure.
And so he gave his answer.
So I think the questions, to get back to the point, I think it matters like who's in the building, right? Is it kind of like newer people that you're spending time with? And this is great like amongst coworkers too. Or if it's like your buddy Sean, and I get to grill you on like why you haven't gotten married yet or something, or like why are you dragging your feet? I mean, sorry, I had to do that. Love you, Sarah. He's dragging his feet, everybody. So and then, but it kind of just depends on who you've got at the table, right? And what it is that you're willing to share about yourself. I think one of the greatest things that you can do is like propose a question and go, I'll go first.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you lead,
it
sets the tone, right?
Definitely.
And I think that happens with your business, with leadership. My willingness to be vulnerable with my team about where I'm at, mentally, physically, with my family, with my relationship with my wife, like all of that impacts their willingness to then let me go a level deeper with them, right? So if I get to impact them in their life, whether it's my friends or my coworkers, my leaders that I've surrounded myself with, if I go first in being vulnerable and sharing what's going on in my life, good or bad, and I think it's okay. I think sometimes we're like afraid to talk about all the good stuff because we're like, we don't know how everybody else is feeling and yada yada. Like, no, man, your life is your life. Like, express it and share it, even if there's some challenging stuff. But being able to go first and leading with vulnerability is huge. It's huge. I mean, there's so many other people that articulate this well, the Brene Browns and folks like that. But yeah.
I think if you try to do something like this, it's very life-giving.
Yeah.
Like creating community around these dinners, which actually transitions me into another question I have for you and an organization that I've become very passionate about because of you, which is the SEAL Future Foundation.
Yeah.
And we just had a few SEALs on this podcast that aired not too long ago talking about the SEAL Future Foundation.
Good dudes.
But I got introduced to that podcast truly through you. I want to say it got put on my radar. We've referenced this men's retreat. I would say a few months prior, I was at the men's retreat and some of those guys are involved in the SEAL Future Foundation. And then you and I started getting close and you're like, hey, I'm putting on this event. Do you want to come down to Orange County and be a part of it? I'm like, I'm in.
Sure.
I'm a yes man. I think it's really important in life just in general that like you need to know what to say yes to, but ultimately you need to know who to say yes to. And so you and I were kind of early friends at this point. We had our Tulum experience and had a great time. And you texted me being like, hey, do you want to come to this event? And I'm like, if Julian's inviting me to an event, like I'm in. Like it sounds like it's going to be amazing. So I like went, right?
Yeah.
You and I were there. I got to meet a bunch of Navy SEALs. And now, like, I'm nowhere near involved. You are, but it's something I'm pretty passionate about. Of like trying to help as much as I can these guys that actually mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
So much so that you and I have now. This would be our third year if we did it, but we started doing the Murph event.
I really want to resist doing the Murph for a third year in a row, if I can just be completely honest.
But we don't have to go into the Murph doing the Murph event.
Yeah.
But for the audience that doesn't know, the Murph is 1 mile run. 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, a mile run.
Yeah, with a 20-pound weighted vest.
The 20-pound weighted
if you want to
vest.
get really
and so
core.
we have done this the last 2 years with a group of people and some Navy SEALs in honor of them.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Michael Murphy.
Are you just like not like wanting to train for it? Are you not wanting to
I'm
get
being
ready
lazy.
for those
That's what
pull-ups?
it is. Yeah, I'm not. And I did
Don't
some.
be soft, man.
Gosh,
Come on.
I know.
I'm just kidding. But you are really involved in this organization,
Yeah.
right? And they have this upcoming shooting event that you're putting on. Like, tell everyone about SEAL Future Foundation.
Yeah. So during COVID, I had a guy, Mike Keating. He's a great guy. He goes to our church, who was like, "Hey, we're doing this. This is during COVID. We're having this like COVID cocktail Zoom with this organization. I think you'd be stoked to hear about. A bunch of Navy SEALs." It's like, cool, why not? So I jump on a Zoom call and hear about this foundation. It's like, cool. Sounds like I'm passionate about it. Would love to be able to support. I like finding avenues to be able to give and share philanthropically. And so heard about this foundation, and I was at a state kind of in my life too, on just feeling this like tug and pull towards wanting to find something else to pour my life into and to be able to give to. Like having restaurants and kids is not enough to pour your life into, but that's just me. Like you, I'm just a yes guy. I need to learn to say no more. But so the SEAL Future Foundation became this life-giving experience for me in a lot of ways. And the foundation, and I know Joey and PT talked about it a little bit in what they shared, but it's a foundation that helps Navy SEALs find purpose and passion as they exit the SEAL teams and get into civilian life, and to help them find a sense of calling and purpose for their life of service that they had in the military, and then finding that life of service outside of the military. And I have the incredible privilege of being the LA FOB lead. So FOB stands for Forward Operating Base. And a FOB, when you get deployed, for anybody that's not in the military, a FOB is kind of that little piece of America on deployment. And it becomes this sense of belonging and community and comfortability when you're in a very foreign place in a hostile environment. So we created FOBs very intentionally to be the community for these SEALs when they leave the SEAL teams and they leave their life in the military, where they have a place where they can land and there's some comfortability and familiarity. So they're not feeling like they're just kind of doing it alone. And I don't mean to like, SEALs are the most capable humans on earth from a mindset and physicality perspective, but they face some really challenging things that we as civilians, and here's a hot take, like as a government, have failed them. And that's why this organization exists.
I totally agree with you, by the way.
Yeah.
That we have failed them as, like just like in general, like getting to know some of these people's stories. And it's just like hearing kind of what their experiences are after they get done. It's like, man, that's sad. Like I cannot believe that that's the way we're treating these guys.
Yeah. These operators see a ton of combat and they get messed up. Yeah. They get banged up pretty hard, physically and mentally. And the VA's solution is like, oh, you're having a hard time sleeping? Here's a pill for that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're feeling depressed? Here's a pill for that. Oh, you're feeling lethargic? Here's a pill for that. And I don't know the medical system, like, so I'm not an expert in that matter. But the reality is like, if we were doing the right thing, our organization wouldn't exist. If we were truly doing the right thing, our organization wouldn't exist.
Good point.
Yeah. Right. And so there's a need for that. And I just, to go back to the community piece, like I'm just so privileged to be able to be a part of that community. I get to lead with another guy, Joe Choi, amazing human, another SEAL. And so we set up our communities, our FOBs. There's 30 plus FOBs across the United States. And SEALs, when they get out, they figure out where they're going to live. We hopefully have a FOB close by to where they want to live. And, we kind of extend that community as they get connected into our community. And so we set up very intentionally, when possible, a civilian and a SEAL as a FOB lead in those communities. And so I get to lead the LA FOB. And I get to do it with some really cool people that we're friends with, Sten Parton, Micah Rohr. Those guys are just incredible dudes that have poured a lot of their civilian life into serving this organization, and get to do some really fun stuff. Yeah, like this.
Yeah, the upcoming event. Let's talk about that.
The upcoming event. So, we're a nonprofit organization, 501c3. We've got to be able to generate income through people's generous donations to be able to support the boys. And what we do really has a huge impact from the medical side. And I'll just touch on that. Joey, who was on here, I'm sure he shared a lot about it too, but like the majority of the spend that the organization has in the medical stuff, it's like something like 75% of all of our spend on programs comes to the medical side because there's a huge need. And we cut through a lot of the red tape of, insurance and traditional medicine, where we can focus on serving that operator individually for the needs that they have medically, whether it's the endocrine system and your hormones are all messed up, or you've got TBI, traumatic brain injury, and you're needing some help in those spaces. We can get very pinpointed on that, but it's costly. And so to help offset some of those costs and to help generate money for the foundation, we get to do these really fun events.
Insane events. We talked about it in a past podcast, but like these events that Julian and all of these SEALs put on are one of one. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. They're a blast.
They're a blast. So let's talk about it, because let's get people maybe we can get some people that are crazy like we are and want to partake in these events with all these Navy SEALs. So
the pitch is, hey, do you want to go shoot guns with a Navy SEAL? That kind of is like the jump, right?
That's so good.
Yeah, right in the camera.
That's so
so
good.
That's kind of the pitch is we
By the way, this is not just shooting pistols.
No.
This is
we curate an experience where you're going to get trained by Navy SEALs on how to use various weapon platforms and go through various experiences. And they're very dumbed down in comparison to the reality, but go through these experiences as if you were potentially going through some sort of SEAL training. Now, we're not putting you through buds. We're not going to drown you or like have you, run to the surf and, fill a bucket of water with salt water in your mouth or something like that, which is a real story.
By the way, what he's talking about, they are going to dumb it down. But one of these experiences that I went to a year ago was like you take a AK.
AR, yeah, M4, yeah.
And you go, I was going fully auto. And
we don't have full autos, but close enough.
We got to cut this. I'm getting this all wrong.
I love you though.
Okay. Basically a badass gun.
Come on.
And you just go basically use the whole clip and then you run
Magazine.
I ought to shut up.
Yeah. No, I'm here for you. Keep going.
God. You run to the. Never mind.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
So what you were describing is this: the one of the things that we did at the event that Sean went to is we had this. It's called bounding, and it's like a cover and move technique. And so when you need to move from one position, when a team, military SEALs or not, they need to move from one position to another. There's one person that puts down suppressing cover fire.
Yes, this is what I was trying to say.
And as that person is putting down cover fire, you communicate to your teammate, move so that they know to get to the next barrier. And then that person who's moved to the advanced position then puts down cover fire so that the person following can make it. So we did this bounding experience where Sean got to unload a magazine, full 30 rounds, and we went from bay to bay to bay to bay, and you run, and it's adrenaline pumping. Heart is pounding, and you're moving, because the idea is if you don't get your butt over there to lay down suppressing fire for your buddy, then you're not going to be able to advance to the position that you need to be able to. So we kind of simulated this experience for our participants to come and do this really.
It was wild.
Fun.
And that was just one of the many things that we did. The other thing we did was we were in a Jeep, and then the Jeep
brake contact is
breaks
the name
down, and then you got to get out of the Jeep, and there's Navy SEALs up on a ridge or a hill shooting down at you with airsoft guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which they said that is when we were going through this experience, the Navy SEAL that was putting us through it was guys, out of all the different scenarios that can happen, this is probably the most dangerous and the worst. This is the one where we are so fearful of we are in a car, we are driving through a little alley or something, or a valley, excuse me. And it's a setup, and you have all these bad guys up on the hill. So we're the low ground, and the car, we can't move it. It breaks down, and you gotta get out of that area. Yeah. So that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Just
it's funny. I remember Casey Abernathy, good dude. I remember him describing, he said, when we go to battle, we're there to bring the battle to them. We don't put ourselves in the position to have to defend.
Yeah.
When we fight, we put ourselves in the position to fight, to be on the offensive.
Yes.
He said, so when we find ourselves in an ambush situation, we don't care about being a tough guy. We care about the safety of our brothers and making sure everybody gets out of there alive. So the experience that we put you through was fight your way back to a defensive position to where you get to take the fight to them rather than them taking the fight to you. And so, yeah, we get to put civilians through this really cool experience. And we've got another event coming up the first weekend in May 3rd. And yeah, we're going to do some fun stuff. Shoot some AKs, some ARs, hopefully some long guns, get some sniper rifles out there to have some civilians knock down some targets at a few hundred yards away.
To the audience out there, it's so fun. It's eye-opening. You get to meet there's 30, 40 Navy SEALs out there?
Yeah. We've got about 30 signed up right now.
Yeah, there's probably even more.
Yeah.
And then you just learn so much. I mean, I didn't grow up in a family that had guns, but there's a lot of people in my family that served in the military, grandfather, great-grandfather, right? So it's this has been a part of my life, but it hasn't really been in my life, as in learning how to use all of these weapons.
Yeah.
So that was a cool experience for me to learn from the best.
It's rad because you're learning from literally the tip of the spear.
Yeah, the tip of the spear. Like the apex predator.
Yeah. I mean, they are the best in the world at what they do. And so for civilians to be able to get just a little bit of training on these different weapon platforms, whether you've shot guns or not before, it is totally welcome to everybody. It's not like showing up at Gold's Gym and trying to get on the bench press, right? Like you're in a safe place where you can learn, and we get to take the time. And my goal is that when people leave, they have a better respect for the SEALs and what it is that they go through, but that they're able to leave with a skill that they feel like they can use in the real world.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool.
I mean, my favorite part about those events, these guys, they have the best stories, man.
They do.
They've got the best stories. So my favorite part's just kind of kicking it afterwards. We're sitting around after everyone's done, and just get the tailgates down. Yeah. Shooting the breeze. The stories are insane.
The stories are insane, which, by the way, I wonder what's going to happen with the cartel now that it's a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I've talked to some guys.
The Navy SEALs, our military might, is going to start going after them. They should be afraid. The cartel should be very afraid.
Yeah. Cartel's well-funded.
Yeah, for sure.
They've got a lot of assets, but they do not have.
They don't have the might.
They don't have the U.S. Navy SEALs.
Yeah, the U.S. military.
Yeah. Those guys. There's a couple of guys that got out for not taking the jab, and I asked. Jab? Yeah. I asked a few of them after Trump rescinded all that and said he would, bring people's, pay back and back pay them. I was like, hey, now that the cartels are a terrorist organization, any interest in jumping back? They're like, dude, maybe. I've been out for a couple of years, but maybe. So I think there's a few guys who are ready to get after the fight and do some good for the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I'm so grateful for you, Julian. This has been so fun having you on the podcast.
Yeah, buddy. Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love you as a friend.
Yeah.
And I know truly I don't get to spend enough time with you, but it is a lot of fun to see you in this element. When you're like, hey, dude, I'm doing a podcast. I'm like, yeah, of course you are. Because you're awesome at this. You're so intentional with your questions. You're giving me props for having these dinners. Dude, you're so good at just creating environments where people want to talk and share. And so love to see you living out this dream and living out this reality. It's awesome, man.
Thanks,
you're meant
man.
for this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. And it's just it's so life-giving. You talked about things that fill your cup. For me, getting to really get to know someone and hearing their story and to bring in people like yourself and some of the other guests that we've had, it's really awesome. Yeah, it's really, and I'm so grateful for you and the relationship we have, and someone I really admire and respect, and I so appreciate your willingness to share. And I hope the audience loved it as much as I did.
Well, I feel like I didn't actually share anything of value, so maybe we can run it back a different time.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do part 2. All right, Julian, thanks for being on, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.